It's the golden age of WWE. Larger than life of fantasy. Step in the ring, feel history. Welcome to the golden WWE.
Golden Era Podcast. I have Shawn Mooney with me. Shawn, how you doing today?
I am doing great, and I am excited to talk about one of the most tremendous tag teams ever in professional wrestling. Yes, I'm saying it.
Splitting up, and you say one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Now, where you put, if we're talking about 1 through 5, are they in your 1 through 5s?
Oh yeah, because and it's not to say we're going to anything against the some of the other great tag teams, the smaller sized professional athletes who helped blaze the trail. But the Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, really did take it to that next level because, as we remember back in the day, and we're talking before even the 80s, when there were tag teams, it was mostly these big giant guys that, would just do battle in the center of the ring. We didn't see a whole lot of high flying and a lot of this athleticism. And, Midnight Express and those guys, were certainly given credit, but you have to really hand it to the Rockers for what they did because they were able to take it really to the next level and to the peak of popularity in professional wrestling with the WWE. No question.
And when you think about them too, is every time you watch their matches in the WWF, at least, you always were entertained because sometimes a lot of clubbing blows to someone's lower back is okay. But when you have two guys sliding through your legs, coming through the ropes, jumping off the top, this was something you weren't seeing at the time. So it was fresh and different. For me, yeah, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I have no idea where they land on my 1 through 5 or my 1 through 10s, but Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty will go down as one of the greatest tag teams. Obviously, Shawn Michaels had a different singles career, but the tag team itself, outstanding.
Yeah, and the style that they had is, I talked about how we really thought of tag teams prior to that era. But to see not only the athleticism, what they could do, but the pacing of what they could do in the ring, where it wasn't just, okay, one big high flying move, boom. No, it was that, boom, 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 swing around, back on the top rope, back that, the other guy comes in, it was just like, what in the world am I watching? How does it, you couldn't even keep up. And, that's what they did. And I know we'll be talking down the road about the British Bulldogs, but they were another tag team that, changed the way that tag team action took place in the ring. And the Rockers, Shawn Michaels certainly gets a lot of credit. We know what a tremendous performer that he is. A lot of people say he's one of the best ever, singles or tag team. But Marty Jannetty, despite all of his baggage and his demons and everything that went along with him, he was a tremendous performer in the ring. And the two of them together were just explosive, exciting. They were so much fun to watch.
I'm glad you said that too, because I am a Shawn Michaels guy. Like as a child, when he was a singles wrestler and he was world champion, he was dancing around and being a baby face, I was all in on anything he's ever done. Like Shawn Michaels, I'll flat out tell you, my favorite of all time, my favorite performer.
Really?
But if you watch the Rockers, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels can't touch Marty Jannetty. Like they're both in sync, but Marty Jannetty is a different beast. If you watch these matches with the Rockers, it's Marty Jannetty who is standing out. He is the person you look at and going, I don't know about this Shawn Michaels guy, but this Marty Jannetty guy, I think he's going to be world champion someday. It's the complete change. But Marty Jannetty to me is one of those unsung heroes because of the past that he's had. But in ring, untouchable in the Rockers.
Yeah, and that is the great tragedy of it, because I think when people look back, that overshadows everything. Well, they talk about the problems he had out of the ring and how he just couldn't stay active. He was always, it seemed like every time he got this new opportunity, he'd find a way to screw it up, and he did. And it's a damn shame because as far as talent goes and ability in the ring, Shawn had nothing on him. I mean, they were just, the two of them were just tremendous performers. Unfortunately for Marty and fortunately for Shawn, when that split happened, one of them went to the top and the other one hit rock bottom.
Yeah. It happens with a lot of people, I think, athletes and, entertainment business. Do you feel like Marty might be the victim of he sees stardom and fame, but somehow always accidentally causes something to not reach the next level? We've seen it with actors. We've seen it with athletes where they kind of just, it's not like they're doing it on purpose, but are they afraid, maybe a little afraid of just achieving the greatness that they designed themselves? Because it seems like they always seem to almost get there, then something happens.
Yeah. No, I would, I certainly couldn't dig into the deep psyche of Marty Jannetty, but I really do believe there was an element of self-sabotage. No question about it. You look at people who know his story. How many it was second, third, fourth, fifth chances that the WWE gave him? How many times he came back, and a lot of the offenses that he had committed, and if they were other people, they would have never heard from the WWE again. Right. And yet Vince McMahon believed in Marty so much, knew what he could do, and it really came down to, it wasn't necessarily a personal thing with him. It was always business with Vince. So that tells you something right there, that he believed that Marty could still make him money. And every time, and there wouldn't be long stretches. It would be within a matter of months, something would happen, and then he was out again. And time again, guys who believed in him, Bret Hart, Kurt Hennig, would go to bat for him and get him back in, and something else would happen. So I think that's a really good point. There's been all kinds of stories about where he came from, and he had actually put up social media posts about how he had killed a man once when he was a kid. I don't know if you ever heard that story.
Oh yeah, Dark Side of the Ring did an episode about him, and and that was part of it. And he flat out was like, "Well, I can't say if it's true or not, but it's a story."
Right, and so who knows? I mean, it could be just like the scream for attention, but there's clearly something in that brain. And also, Steve, we can't really rule out any of this, and I think even Shawn Michaels. And we'll find out one day when it really does come out about CTE and these blows that these guys had taken with their brains. That has a huge impact on behavior, and so, and not to mention all of the other things that the two of them put into their bodies. I mean, it's unreal. A lot of these guys were able to last as long as they did and perform at the level that they did for an extensive period of time. But I really believe, I think you hit on something there. I think there is an element of that with Marty, because, God, so much talent, and really he's one of the great, not just a tag team performer, but just a professional wrestler. And he just couldn't let it happen.
No. And 1987, though, is when the Rockers actually come into the WWF. They're only around for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. The story is that apparently they were at a party at a bar, and someone walked up to Shawn Michaels, Marty, said, "Heard you like to party." Well, Shawn Michaels says in his documentary he took just a beer bottle, smashed it over his head, kind of appeased the audience to leave them alone. And they heard that, got back to the office, and they said, "Oh, we caused some trouble at the bar." And
well, and there's conflicting stories about what exactly happened surrounding that incident. I know I've heard many times that it was, some of the veteran wrestlers were there, and they're questioning just how tough they were, and if they had enough of that toughness to step into the ring with these guys, and they were out to impress them. And John breaking the bottle over his head and saying, "Was that tough enough for you?" And then I think that I don't know how much, if it came to blows, but there was a fracas, as they say. And of course, that's not the first thing you do when you get to the WWE, is have incidents outside of the ring. And I'm sure at that point, Vince McMahon said, despite the talent I see in these kids, because that's pretty much what they were at that point, very immature. I don't know if that ever changed, but I think he said, you're not mature enough to be here, and I don't need the headaches. It's not worth what you guys can do for us when I've got to worry about whether or not I'm getting you out of jail.
Now, is that a common thing, though, you think, where wrestlers who are veterans see someone younger, faster, stronger than them and go, how can I slow them down? How can I hurt their career so mine stays going up? Is that a common thing, at least in the WWF at the time?
Well, there's certainly an element of that. We've talked about this before, where there is envy, and you see people coming in but it's part of the business. I mean, come on, no matter where you were, AWA, NWA, wherever it was, Mid-South, you're always competing. But there is also that element to prove to me you deserve to be here, and I think that was true wherever you went. The key was whether or not you succumb to it. Now there are guys that realize, you know what, okay, I totally understand that's how you feel, but where I'm going to prove it to you is inside those ropes. Mm-hmm. And Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard talk about, when they were the Brain Busters, and that was when they came back, which we'll get to. But Arn Anderson talks about how when you come into a situation like that, you have to realize you don't know everything. I don't care where you came from or how good you are, but you don't know everything. And this isn't true in any business or profession, that you should pay attention to your elders. They might teach you something if you pay attention. And I think that despite the fact that they still had their wild ways going, I think after working with those guys, they realized, we might be able to learn a few things from these guys. And they had a tremendous run. And I think it's great to looking back that they had those two guys really first up when they had their first real run. And they paid attention. And Arn even says to the point where, at the end of it, they were teaching us. And so that is full circle. And that's where you earn your respect, because not necessarily they have to step into the ring with these other veterans to prove it. But once they had done that with those two, word of mouth and them telling them, and also them just witnessing it. So yes, there's going to be a level of envy, but that's your own insecurities. If you've got guys like that, they're never really going to get anywhere because they don't actually believe in themselves.
Yeah, there's been stories about wrestlers for years. I remember one time was like Triple H and Shawn Michaels were telling The Rock that eyebrow thing kid ain't going to get over. Yeah. And, I think they saw him as the future of the WWE, and obviously TKO member as well, the board. So, Rock, all praise here on this show, sir. Keep it up. Keep up the great work.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. Look at where it's funny how many stories there are of guys that really had reached the end of their rope, literally hanging on to their professional careers because of people telling them what they thought they should do to get over. Mm-hmm. And The Rock is a classic example where he finally said, you know what, screw this. I am not getting anywhere. And so I'm just going to do what I feel. I'm going to just let that character out that I feel is right. And same, you could say the same thing about Stone Cold. You say it about Steve Austin because he basically, and you've heard him say many times in interviews that, it's basically said, F it. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do what I think works. And in many, many cases, those are two classic examples, but that's true. That's you need to get to that point, because that's where it is, where you really just trust who you are becoming, what and you follow it, and you say, I'm either going to, this sword's going to be swinging or I'm falling on it. Yeah. Right.
I think that eyebrow got over though. I think it worked out for him.
We can do 1980. This is
I can't do your head on. 1988 though, they rehire the Rockers. They return, folks, and they become the tag team specialists, the Rockers. And that's the first time I've even heard of that term, because you would see a finisher, or like I hold you and you punch me, like a tag team, that was their double team move. the Rockers weren't just doing, I hold you, you punch that guy. It was, we're going to do a super kick. We're going to fly off together, hitting them in the face. We're going to slide underneath their legs together. We're going to bounce. They did everything
Double
together.
drop kicks. Yeah.
Double drop kicks. Like being a tag team specialist was the first time that I remember someone introducing me to a team that they don't just do a couple moves together. They do like almost 90% of their moves are together. And to me, the Rockers don't get the credit for becoming that, or we're going to set up double team moves, not just once, like 10 times in a match. Like, do you think this is the beginning of that? Because from this point on, all tag teams have to have signature moves.
Well, I think you saw, these, as I mentioned before, these other tag teams, Midnight Express, and they
were doing it. I guess the WWF audience, I'm talking.
Right,
yes,
but I think, as I said, I think that they took it to another level, and of course, they had a bigger stage at the time. But they really were it was amazing to watch them. They were like synchronized swimmers with violence, I guess you'd call it, because
that should have been their nickname.
Right, because the timing of it was just spectacular. And that is a credit to their talent, because you have to have two guys that can work together. That doesn't always happen, and we've seen in many cases. But these two guys, from the time they met, it was just a matter of honing their skill and their timing. And really, you'd watch some of those matches, and it didn't look like it was this choreographed dance or something. But it was almost like they were just so in tune with one another. The way I would look at it is that they just knew this was going to work. I'm a huge rugby fan. It just, the only way I remember watching teams, like I went to the World Cup one time, and the team from Fuji were these guys that had been together for so long, and they knew what the other one was thinking. They could do a pass without even looking at the guy because they knew he was going to be there. And so I know that's kind of a stretch, but that's exactly the way I looked at the Rockers, that, they didn't necessarily have to know what they were going to do. It was instinctual between them. There was this connection between the two of them that was just so exciting to watch.
And their look too, this long flowing hair. Yeah. They have the tassels. They're wearing matching gear. They're running to the ring too. You don't see only people who really ran to the ring were Ultimate Warrior. So they would jog to the ring and they would do their thing. And just presentation alone, I think that to me jumps out as everyone else would walk to the ring. I don't know if it was a menacing thing or just saving their breath. These guys would run to the ring and then
like they couldn't wait to get to
the
you.
Ropes.
Yeah.
They had cool music. And that was the thing too. You heard their music, you knew who's coming out. Sometimes in today's world, sometimes you hear a song, I'm like, who? Then the Titantron pops up. And that person's coming out. Oh, okay, cool. But yeah, I enjoyed their presentation. But their matches, you brought them up. There's a few matches in the Rockers' history that you go, oh my god, like how is this not talked about more often? And them versus the Brainbusters, anytime they wrestled, it felt like they were made for each other, because Arn Anderson, one of the best going ever in professional wrestling, but Tully Blanchard, same, he's right up there. But the Rockers, like, for you personally, watching all these and doing commentary over some of these matches, which, I guess, matches jump out to you as something like, oh man, like I remember this, and and they never had a bad match.
No, they had classics. Like you said, you surprised you don't hear much more about those matches, because every one was a classic in a sense. And I remember thinking at the time, going like, how is this going to work with these two teams? Because Arn and Tully were certainly old school and methodical, and the way they would just take a tag team apart, and then the Rockers going flying all over the place. But man, boy did it work. And they just every time that they stepped into the ring, and it was a long run. Where I don't know how many matches they had, but that tells you something too, that they were such great matches that, they kept it going, and for good reason, because it worked. And it was, I think that during that run, as good as the Rockers were when it started, they were much better by the time they ended, because of what they were able to accomplish with those guys in the ring. And as I mentioned with Arn saying, they paid attention to what we did, and they adopted a lot of the stuff with the timing and what you do and the storytelling, because these two guys were, old school storytellers. you know, and that's what I always thought with Arn too, you know, not necessarily the greatest mic man or getting his message across verbally, although he was, you know, fine. But my point is that how he performed in the ring, and you talk about like that, it's storytelling as well. And the two of them, you know, going up against the Rockers like that, it wasn't the Rockers. I think learned much more on how to tell a story with what they were doing. It wasn't just in there, just go in and just frenetic and all this crazy stuff going on, and then it's, you know, and then suddenly it's over with the rocker dropper or, you know, whatever. But yes. They learned to tell, you know, pacing, slow it down, pick it up, then go, you know, and tell the story. And so I think at the end of that run, they were better. They were even better as a tag team because of those guys.
There's one match that always jumps out to me. It's from Royal Rumble 91. It's the Rockers versus the Orient Express. And for a while, actually, if you go to, I think, 92 Rumble, the Orient Express also are the first match on that. They fight the New Hart Foundation, you know, Anvil and Owen Hart. But the one that happened in 91, sometimes when you think of Royal Rumbles, you always go, oh, well, that was the best Royal Rumble. I remember that moment, or I remember this 91 ain't that good. You have but this tag team match is something you have to go back and watch. Like, there's just so much chemistry between these two tag teams, but that's 91. In 1990, we're already like 2 years into their run. They have fought Demolition. They fought Powers of Pain. They fought the Rougeaus. They fought every single buddy. And, of course, they're bumping machines for all these bigger wrestlers. So you'd think it's time to win the tag team titles, right? You would think we're going to win the tag team championships. So October 30th, 1990, the Rockers defeat the Hart Foundation in a 2 out of 3 falls match. It's going to air on Saturday night's main event. The top rope breaks. So they tape the match. Yeah. It's messy. It's not that great, but the Rockers still win the championships from the Hart Foundation. Hooray for you.
Yeah.
But it didn't actually air. It didn't get acknowledged. This came out years later when suddenly the internet was a thing and everyone was finding out anything about that. What were your thoughts on this? Were you told the Rockers were supposed to be champions and this just didn't go the way it was supposed to go?
Yeah, that I think as far as the you know, their ascension was kind of like everybody's kind of like wondering, why aren't these guys you know, tag team champions? And because, as you mentioned, they had went up against everybody. And one thing I wanted to say before we even talk about that is, you know, you mentioned these big tag teams that they went up against, you know, Demolition and Akeem and Big Boss Man and before, you know, I think if anybody had a question, could they go up against these guys? Because, you know, that's a pretty big hill to climb, is for people to really accept that these two giant monsters just don't squash these, you know, smaller wrestlers. I'm not saying Rockers, but, you know, it's just before then, that was always a tough sell. But they proved that you could go in there and they had great matches with these guys because they both understood their styles and they figured out, how do we make it work? How do we make it flow together? And so, and so at that point they'd done everything. And that was kind of like, okay, that's the next thing. I remember that match of the top rope broke and you're like, how does that happen? You know, these guys set these rings up, you know, 1,000 times. Was it the last strand on this thing? Like, how did that happen? And so you wouldn't think, okay, one rope is out, but you're thinking that one whole side you can't really go over, because you're going to go over the second rope, you're going to be on the floor, and you just can't do the moves, and it kind of threw off the whole timing and planning of that match.
Yeah,
it wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't great. And they did end up getting the belts. But as you said, they kind of buried the match. Now, you understand they probably didn't want to air it because of that rope not being there. It was just too much to explain, too weird, and they didn't think the match. But, you know, you also have to wonder, okay, did they kind of rethink? Maybe it's dangerous to give this to these guys because there was still antics going on when they weren't in the ring. It's not like they slowed down their partying or there were, you know, not things happening. But I wonder if at some point they're like, can we give them the responsibility of this? And now we have the chance to not make it happen. So, but that, to me, that's kind of unexplainable. How do you decide you're going to give it to them and then you don't in that little span of time? But obviously something happened within the top echelon there, because, okay, so that match was kind of not great, so we'll do it again. Well, you know, how many scenarios could you come up with right now that would justify saying that they have to go at it? They could say, okay, we're President Jack Tunney steps in or says, look, because of that top rope, whatever, it was not an officially sanctioned match, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they have to do it again, and you got another big stage, another big opportunity to sell this thing. And yet they never got him. And it's like, well, that's I don't get it. So that's a strange mystery of why, because they certainly were popular enough, were certainly good enough. They were at the top of the tag team mountain there, and yet never got the straps.
It's interesting you say that, because it's October 30th. It's 1990. So in reality, you're heading into Survivor Series, and both teams, Heart Foundation and Rockers, really aren't doing much heading into that Survivor Series. It's just very strange that you can't get the straps on the Rockers at a different event, or just edit. It's very easy to go, okay, if the last 5 minutes have no top rope, fine. We'll air the whole match the way it was done up until that point. And up to that point, we'll like shoot the camera at the crowd really quick, have commentary cover it by saying, oh no, the top rope just broke. Oh no, they have the move. 1, 2, 3. All right, match is over. Easy. Because we have talked about it already on this show. Ric Flair lost the world championship to Bret Hart at a house show. Mountie beat Bret Hart, IC title, house show. We have seen this like 10 other times already. Legion of Doom, natural disasters. Why can't you just say, edit really quick and get rid of it? Is it because it's going to air on NBC and you're worried that NBC might be upset with the production value?
Yeah, so clearly, you know, there was more to it than that, because, like we said, there were 100 different scenarios they could have gone with and set it back up again, and then had been able to, key on that opportunity again to get them, and it was would have been very popular. I mean, the Hart Foundation, come on, they were a tremendous tag team with Brett and Jim. And so, that could have been, that run, and they did meet several times, but it doesn't make any sense. So obviously something behind the scenes went on, and they said, okay, we're not going to do this. I mean, there was a decision made. I mean, the point is they for whatever reason, they decided that we're not going to give them the straps.
Wow. So what was your relationship like with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty around this time? You know, if you're telling me kind of saying, oh, they still are partying, they're still doing their thing. I'm assuming a lot of people are doing that. But what's your relationship like with them?
Great. I really like both of them. And it's funny because people asked me before, and I honestly thought that of at least the ones of being around them, that I thought like Marty was the one who had it together, and that he was going, the one that kept them grounded, and then you come to find out all the things that were going on. They're like, oh my God. And maybe that changed later, but that was my perception. I always thought Shawn was more of the wild child. And it was incredible to me to see these two guys, and they hit it hard. Marty talks about it, how, they would, every night they would party and do all kinds of drugs, and they had all kinds of women. I remember, being at an arena, and Brett used to do the cartoons, and they would usually have a chalkboard in there or something, and Brett would do some kind of artwork, and it was usually telling about something that had happened. And I remember one time it was this caricature of, he would do both of them, and it was like a woman's rear end, I'll say, and then like other things, paraphernalia. Okay. And that, and it was just kind of an implication that, well, that was last night. I mean, just insane. And the point of it is that, these guys partied like, no, I don't think there was anybody else and they were proud of that. But even more so that they would show up to the arena wherever they were performing that night. And if you didn't see them come, I mean, like they'd be like blurry eyed and like, obviously whatever effects of the night before. But by God, when you said they'd run out to the ring, oh my God. And it would be the same night after night. They didn't miss a beat. I'm sure there were some, but like I wasn't out there in the house shows every night, but I know every time I saw them, and I'm sure the night before was no different than any other, that when they were in that ring, and maybe it was youth, I don't know, but
I'm going to guess youth. You
wouldn't have been able to tell what went on and what kind of sleep they may have gotten, and and still look good. They still had to get to a gym at some point,
right?
And it's not like they were chiseled, but they had good physiques. And it's just, when I look back at that, I'm like, I don't, how in the world that they were able to perform like that. And they weren't alone. There were others like them, but you hear about the legend of the partying they did. And both of them have admitted just how insane it was, and the amounts of coke and, the muscle relaxers and then the abuse that their body was taking. It's amazing that they were able to do what they did at that level and still be able to just set the world on fire every night.
Oh man, yeah, you always hear stories of this time.
Good Lord,
you walk in there and you're blurry eyed, but yet you're putting on amazing matches every single time. While we were talking for a second, I did some research really fast. Let me throw this scenario out at you. So the Rockers, Hart Foundation, that match, October 30th, goes wrong, top rope. So they don't switch to championships, okay? The next time the Hart Foundation lose the championships out to the Nasty Boys at WrestleMania 7, then they lose the titles to Legion of Doom at SummerSlam 91. Legion of Doom came into the WWF in the summer of 1990. We're in October of the Rockers not getting the belts after winning them technically. Do you feel like Vince had a plan? He's like, okay, Legion of Doom are here now. We're going to bring them, but we got to get some wins underneath them. We got to build them up first before we give them the titles. Do you feel like that is what happened here? Or in reality, it's just Rockers are partying like crazy and we decided to go a different route?
Well, I think that, before we had the top rope incident, they were well aware of the lifestyle these guys were living. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much that played into it. I think more so that because they had tried to get Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, into the WWE for years. And so when it happened, that was certainly the plan. So I think it was more what you said, the latter there, that they wanted to get them and build it up, and then and who better than to have the Rockers help them do it.
That's true. And then it kind of gets a little worse for them, because December of 1990, an injury happens while in the ring. The Rockers are in a tag team match with a man named Chuck Austin. He's in the match. Jannetty accidentally paralyzes him in the match using a rocker dropper, And Chuck Austin at this point apparently has only had 6 months of wrestling training at this point in time in his life. He steps in the ring with professionals. They do a move. It paralyzes him.
Yeah.
This follows Marty Jannetty forever, up until 1994 when the actual lawsuit occurs. So you're in the company when this situation happens. What's the reaction? What is the protocol for something like this?
Well, I'll tell you, I am amazed it didn't happen more often, because when we would go to these towns, and there was wrestling schools in pretty much every city we went to, and what they would do is they'd put the word out that they needed enhancement talent, or jobbers as they were better known then. And they would literally send these green kids who just wanted, I mean, can you imagine that that's your dream? You might be 18 or 19, 20, early, and you're getting a chance to not only step into the ring with some of the most famous professional wrestlers in the world, but you're going to be on television too. So I don't know if they paid him $50 to come and they would have done it for free. And so if you go in there and you're talking to the guy and the guy says, hey, okay, we're going to go do this and I'm going to do this thing called the rocker dropper. And I was like, oh yeah. You hear Marty Jannetty tell the story and the guy's saying, oh yeah, I know all that. We do that at the school all the time. They're just they'll tell you anything. Mm-hmm. And at the same time too, it's like, I remember watching, and the whole point of it was, Superstars and Challenge, those shows are promotional tools. It was to put the superstars over and then sell the shows. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to go up against somebody who obviously doesn't know what the hell they're doing, a lot of them were not in great shape. They're big puddles of flesh. And so what do you have to do to the guy? Whether or not you really want to or not, but you've got to just ferociously destroy them to show just how great you are. And so it for the most, 100%, maybe not that, but a lot of it was stiff, to put it mildly, where they would go out there and it was kind of a rite of passage, I think, for a lot of these guys. And most, a lot of them didn't know what the hell they were doing. I'm not taking away from, Mike Sharp and those guys, who mm-hmm. basically were part of the WWE. These are guys that they would just bring in and just to get destroyed. And as I said, they have to sign a waiver. They all sign waivers saying whatever happens in this ring, you are voluntarily going in and you hold no one responsible. And Mr. Austin did the same thing. He signed that paper. Mm-hmm. And you're going to tell that guy you're going up against, because what are you going to say if I don't know that? We're like, okay, get me somebody else. You're like, no, I want to do, they want to do this. And they're hoping that it's going to help propel them in their career. And one day they'll be able to tell how they went up against the Rockers. So this guy was going to tell him anything. And this is according to Marty when he tells the story and says that the guy, he told him that he was familiar with the rocker dropper. He said, and all he had to do was just pancake keep your head up and just pancake. Well, when he came down, if you look at the video, he made it more like a DDT, and he put his head down. Mm-hmm. And when he did that, his neck, you could see it, his neck went sideways, and that's where the injury happened. And, countless matches you see, well, the guy doesn't know that how badly you've just been injured, this guy, unless it's massively obvious. You see, and he goes in and tells him roll over, and Austin says that that he told Marty, I can't, and and you see Marty basically rolls him over, and then to put the spike into it, Shawn comes off the top rope and lands on his chest. So who knows what that did, and but it's a tragedy. Like I said, I'm surprised it didn't happen more often, because you had a lot of people in there that didn't know what the hell they were doing. And I think from that point on, they would only, actually bring guys in that were proven commodities, at least had a very familiar knowledge of what you did in the ring. And they were a lot more cautious about, what was going to be involved in the match after that. But a huge tragedy and a huge settlement for it. But it was a great lesson for the WWE that, you can't just put anybody in there. And if they don't know what they're doing, people could really get hurt. And that's what happened. But, you look back at it, it's amazing that was really the only and biggest incident that happened like that.
Yeah. You would see over the years other videos come out of other wrestlers just manhandling jobbers, enhancement talent, just beating
that's
them down.
What you had to do, right? Yeah,
that was the thing. That was the thing.
You take it easy on a guy, you're like, oh, geez, he's not that ferocious. I don't want to go see him. So they would destroy these guys, and most of them loved it. They.
You take your buddies that got beat up by Legion of Doom or Warrior or Rockers.
Yeah, I think Mick Foley, he was kind of he got his start with the British Bulldogs, and Dynamite Kid broke his jaw after that. So he had a something to remember him by for the rest of his career. But yeah, that's just the way it was back then.
The Hardy Boys started out that way. Rhino started that way. Brooklyn Brawler. There's plenty. Barry Horowitz. There's plenty of Scar Too Hottie. There's plenty of people you can mention that started off as just, hey, a one-off. Hey, can you come in here and get beat up in your hometown? And then you keep coming back to that hometown, and suddenly someone sees it and like, oh, all right, we see your dedication to the cause, so you're going to be involved with us from this point on. But this Chuck Austin situation, when you think of, I'm guessing you said it. I'm guessing that when you do this, you have to sign a waiver. You have to sign a piece of paper that says if something goes wrong, we're not liable. You know what you're getting yourself into, because I'm guessing that's how it worked. Yeah. But when Chuck Austin goes paralyzed, obviously I'd be pissed too. I'd be very upset that I'm paralyzed. But you did tuck your head. He probably told you not to do that. He sues, and in 1994, he wins $26.7 million. Eventually, it is settled out of court, and the WWF has to pay $10 million. Marty Jannetty has to pay $500,000.
Yeah, came out of his pocket too. Yeah.
Yes. Now, when you're in the company, I imagine that this does not look good on you as a wrestler from Marty Jannetty. Shawn Michaels is also attached to this because he is your tag team partner. So the heat that lands on Marty probably lands on Shawn. Was there, after this event, do you, from your observations and perspective of, the Rockers, we love them so much, but this has put too much heat on us?
No, I don't. I think that most people realize that it was an accident. It wasn't something they intended to do. And also, the realization there was, in a twisted way, I guess, that it added some legitimacy to what those guys did in the ring. That, people can get really hurt. This is not some make-believe action, really, that's going on in there. And I always would liken it to, these guys are professional stuntmen. Well, professional stuntmen get hurt all the time. And these guys are, unbelievable. I look at some of the stuff that they did even then, and now today it's crazy, but how they don't go to a hospital every night is astounding to me. I've said it many times, they're in a car wreck every night. So, I think it added some legitimacy to what they did. And also the fact, all the boys, they knew that there was nothing really negligent that the Rockers did. Any one of them could have been caught in that situation if they ended up with a guy out there who didn't know what he was doing. I mean, can you imagine, I know that, Joe Laurinaitis would talk about, some of these guys, they would be a little nervous with these guys because they hoist the guy up on their shoulders, and then Hawk would come off the top rope. And basically what they would tell him, look, don't do anything. Just relax. Let it happen, because what's going to happen is he's going to come across your chest. You're going to do a natural flip, and you're going to land flat on the apron. Well, if you stiffen up, or let's say you ducked your head, and you got the guy in the neck or something, it could have been a disaster when you have people like that. So I think in many cases, the boys understood exactly that, hey, that could have been me out there. And as as far as the perception, they may have lost some shine to some fans, but I don't think many. I think that people understood that they didn't mean for that to happen, and also showed just what a dangerous and very real violence and collisions that are happening out there.
Yeah, I'm more talking about, like, if I'm Vince McMahon and I see this happen, you're thinking like, I'm thinking two ways. One is like Vince being like, yeah, you show that guy, he should have listened to you, or yeah, we're tough guys, and these people shouldn't just step in the ring because they think they can do it. I get that part. And then the other part is we're like, Jesus, like, this is not good, like, because now he can probably smell a lawsuit coming. Because this is December of 1990. It's not
that guy wasn't out of the arena before. I'm sure there were lawyers looking for the ambulance. Yeah,
100%. Like January 94 is when it's finally settled. By that time, Shawn Michaels has already become an Intercontinental champion. By that time, Marty Jannetty's already been fired and brought back. So like, there's already been things that have happened. back and forth. But 91, I feel like even as a fan, I mean, you're wondering, all right, all the tag teams they've wrestled are no longer here. Brainbusters are back in WCW. Tully Blanchard doesn't even work there anymore. Demolition is broken up. We got Repo Man. Like, we have everyone we've already wrestled has moved on, but we haven't. As a tag team, do you feel like it's always necessary to move on? Because Legion of Doom really didn't do that. Some tag teams don't do that. Rockers, they obviously chose to go different routes in storyline and in real life. But how did you feel with the Rockers in 91? You're like, okay, well, we've done everything, but maybe we should just try something different.
Yeah, but what do you mean by move on? Like you're saying,
maybe turn heel or break up. Like what's the next step? Because they broke up, in 92, but in 91, it's like, okay, you didn't win the tag team titles. You kind of just doing what you were doing before. What should we do? Because everybody else is already broken up or left. What's left, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think in Shawn's case that he had that itch earlier on before Marty did. And I think that Marty may have thought he could have some success as a singles performer. But I think that he knew where the gold was, and he knew that Shawn and him together were gold in a sense. But you're right, though. At some point, it's okay, what are you doing? And I think that in Shawn's mind, he always had that idea that he could be very successful, and he knew that's where you really went to the next level. That's where you started making the money, and that's where the fame and would be even more so. And those two guys were together 24/7. That's another element of it, is like, man, and there's headaches that came along with that. But I think just from the professional standpoint, that Shawn more than Marty had that eye on, at some point, I want to be on my own. And, it started to come to a head. If you remember the story that Marty kind of said to, Shawn, we got this big opportunity to go down south. And after, I don't remember which incident it was, and I don't want to say because the historians will tell me what I did.
They will. Right. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, that Marty, said, hey, we've got this chance to do that, and we can go down south, and we're going to make all this money. And Shawn's like, what? And so anyway, they kind of reach out, and I don't know who. I think Shawn called. I don't know if he called Flair or whoever. Or I think he even got in touch with Bischoff. I'm not sure. But anyway, the idea was they were like, well, we really don't have anything for you guys. I mean, you can come down and we'll give you, but the big contract stuff that they're handing out to everybody is just not happening. And so it was kind of like one of those things that Marty didn't know what he was talking about. He was talking out of his rear end, that he just felt like that they had such renowned that they could go down there and name their own price. So I think that was part of the cracks of it, the saying, like, and he basically told Vince that we're leaving without really consulting, because he said, "Are you with? I'm going to go talk to Vince," but didn't say that I'm going to say we're quitting. And told him, yeah, and he goes, "Shawn's in on this," and he's like, "Yes, he's behind me." And then when Shawn actually talked to Vince, he said, "What? We're what? Huh?" So, that was probably where some of the cracks were coming from. But I'm sure that it was probably a combination of things. But I think at the top of that is that Shawn felt that he had the talent, and it was getting to that point where if he was going to do it, the time was now.
Yeah, in Shawn Michaels' documentary, he brings up a conversation he had with Marty. He's like, yeah, I think we should split up and go do our own things and maybe fight each other. And Marty was taken back, like, wait, what are you talking about? Right, Shawn, right. Shawn obviously saw something else. And the most famous breakup in tag team history happens at a barbershop with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, when Marty Jannetty was a coward and jumped through the glass window, as Bobby Heenan put it.
Jumped?
He was trying to escape him. He's afraid. But yes, the most famous tag team breakup in tag team's history happens at a barbershop. And you think the Rockers have, because in storyline form, the Rockers are showing tension. It's Survivor Series 91. Marty accidentally kicked Shawn Michaels in the face, so he gets pinned. Like, we've seen this over and over and over again. Even in the WWF magazine, they were pushing the storyline. Are they breaking up? And they hold the magazine up together, and they're not breaking up. They're together. Shawn Michaels and super kicks Marty Jannetty, and I love Bobby. I knew it. He was going to do that.
No, but it's so great. The line before he says that, because he Shawn makes it look like, we're all good. And Bobby's like, yeah, that's right. You can't have one without the other. They're just the greatest thing. And then bam. And then Bobby's like, I knew he was going to do that.
I knew it. And he rips up the magazine. Yeah. Bobby Heenan.
Right. Perfect. It was perfect that, the centerfold split the team right in half.
Oh, it was beautiful.
But man, oh, wow. Well, yeah, that was one of the biggest and greatest breakups. And, you look at that, you watch that video, and Shawn's got a pair of leather boots on that they're not wrestling boots. There's no rubber on the bottom of those soles. And Marty even says, man, that was a bit stiff. And that was a hell of a kick. It took him right off his feet. And then, of course, we had him, as you said, jump through the window. I think he had some assistance. Yes. From Shawn. And Marty tells a story too, just a side note on the glass that, because you see when he hits the floor, he's got some color. And he says that they had 3 panes of glass. 2 of them were sugar glass and 1 wasn't. And that the crew didn't happen to mark them. So they knew, because, they had a backup. In case for some reason they had to reshoot it. It wouldn't have been the first time something like that may have happened, but so you could redo the window. And the way he tells it, that they forgot to mark which one was which, and which one do you they had a 1 out of 3 chance. Which one do you think they put in there?
I'm gonna guess the real glass.
And so that wasn't him doing a little jab there. That was the real deal. But man, that was quite a segment, and you have to wonder how much was reality between those two at that point, because there was a lot simmering underneath the surface.
Yeah, if I was Marty, I would have jumped through that window too.
I wanted him to go all the way through. That would have been great, just for Shawn to just like grab him by the seat of the pants like that, and then just throw him through it. Not kind of like like the coconut incident where
oh man,
Jimmy Superfly, he gets hit with it, and the backdrop is supposed to fall down when he goes, but it's like they have these 2x4 framing on the bottom, so it won't really go over, so he's like pushing it before he can get it to fall over. But the window, it's still all work, but I would have loved to seen him just go completely through the window, but they had to sell it with him on the floor, and Brutus comes out and the whole deal. But it was
brilliant.
Yes. Yeah,
it's still, again, like there has over years now, we've had so many tag teams break up, from the Hardys, the Dudleys, Legion of Doom, Edge and Christian, New Age Outlaws. Like every single tag team eventually usually breaks up. And this, I feel like it's one of those moments of, this was perfect. We did everything we needed to do. We got here. We've had 1 turn heel, 1 turn baby face. But this also is the birth of something I want to discuss with you as well, is from this point on, when a tag team breaks up, 1 usually does really well, 1 doesn't do well. And they call that, you're the Marty Jannetty.
The Marty Jannetty syndrome.
You're the Marty Jannetty. You're the Jannetty. How do you, I asked him, I interviewed him a year ago. I asked him about that. He didn't really dive into it deep, because he was in Marty Jannetty. Why
would you? He's on the other side of that to talk about. I'm a total failure and a success and I had success right there staring at me, and I smacked it.
And it kicked me in the face and threw me through the window too. Yeah. How do you feel about that? Because that is still, to this day, as we talk about it, 30 years later, that's still a thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's another one, another situation. Talk about opportunities and letting them slip away. That could have been a great run with those two. You talk about some serious heat. And then you have, and it would have been a stage where both of them could have proven that we are great singles performers as well. And it was a planned run, the two of them. But again, Marty can't let it happen, and he gets in trouble. There's several factors that were involved. I think this is a point where he had an altercation with a cop. And he had restrictions on, I don't even know if he could leave his house, where it's like, Marty, geez, I mean, that, who knows? Let's say they would have had that run and Marty would come back several times, as I mentioned, and he would perform brilliantly in the ring, where he would even get another contract. They want him, and then he would be another couple of months go by. But this opportunity here, I think, really, set the stage for the rest of what happened for his career in professional wrestling, because this was a fantastic opportunity, regardless of whether or not he wanted it to happen, because maybe he would have been just as happy for the Rockers to continue on as tag team champions, maybe turn heels. I don't know, maybe whatever he thought. But Shawn had other ideas, but this could have been beneficial to both of them.
I use the example of
couldn't
Strike
happen.
Force.
Yeah, he just couldn't let it happen.
Yep. Strike Force to me jumps out to me. Tito Santana and Rick Martel, the Strike Force, they broke up, and then Rick Martel became Rick the Model Martel, and Tito Santana didn't really do much, but he didn't fall at the wayside and get fired or have trouble. Those two had a good, decent run. They had fun. Shawn Michaels obviously becomes world champion. That's a whole different story altogether. But you're right. Failing a drug test, getting fight with cops, WrestleMania 8, playing match. January they break up. WrestleMania 8 makes sense. Nope, it doesn't happen. Marty's out of the company. Shawn Michaels is in the first match of the night against Tito Santana, but he's El Matador at that point in time. Yes, Marty returns a year later in 1993 to start this storyline over that happened a year ago. I'm sorry, but I don't think at the time attention span of wrestling fans were like, oh, what happened a year ago? Oh, am I supposed to care about this? I didn't care about it. And then WrestleMania 9, we're going to do it again. No, we're not. Marty gets in trouble again. Yeah. And Shawn Michaels fights Tatanka in the first match at WrestleMania 9. Are we seeing a pattern here, Sean Mooney?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. Obviously.
Every January.
And they even gave him the Intercontinental belt.
Yep.
I mean, it just shows you that it wasn't, this wasn't charity work. They don't, the WWE, as greater than they are as far as taking care of people and that. It always comes down to business, and that shows you that they felt that Marty was a great performer, and that they believed that he could do something in singles competition. Otherwise, they would have never given him the opportunity to have some belts or even be given the matchups that he got. A lot of times they might bring somebody back and it's kind of like, he's in a tough situation. Let's help him out a little bit, see how he does. No, they gave him a incredible push the times that he came back, and never failed. Something would happen. It's just amazing. I really, as you mentioned at the top of this, that about the self-sabotage, I don't know what else it could be, because he's the only one that got in his way as far as being able to capitalize on situations with the WWE, because my God, did they give I don't know how many others. Certainly people have gotten many, many chances, but I don't know. He's got to be right up there.
The fact that the breakup is one of the greatest of all time. And then he gets in trouble, so we don't get that. Then he returns in 93, January, he wins the Intercontinental title. You're like, Marty Jannetty's back, baby! He's not missed a beat. The same thing happens to him WrestleMania 9. And then he comes back in 1995. He forms the New Rockers with Leif Cassidy, Al Snow.
Oh, man.
Same thing keeps happening to him. And
but you have to wonder there, though, with that, because it was kind of a spoof on the Rockers, and I don't know if it was, that didn't help him at all.
No,
and, it didn't help Al either. But as far as coming back, and they're basically saying we're gonna goof on what made you who you are and why you're known for that it's this out of touch tag team that still thinks they're cool, when the disco ball's already been taken down from the club, and it's a different world. So I don't know what that was. That maybe that was just to give them work. I don't know, but that wasn't something that was going to help. So I think it started to wane, and they realized that they just knew Marty was Marty.
I know, and it's unfortunate because over the years, Shawn Michaels has gone in the Hall of Fame as Shawn Michaels. He's gone in the Hall of Fame as in DX. Do you think that the Rockers themselves could go into the Hall of Fame? Because doing quick research right here, he's been laid off 9 times by the WWF. 9 times.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone else has that record. And that's not a record you probably want.
But I don't think that that's why that would be considered as far as for Hall of Fame recognition. But as the Rockers, yeah, because as we talked about, they set new standards in tag team. They did go to new heights, pun intended here, as far as changing the way we watched tag team wrestling. So yeah, I think that they're very worthy, despite all of the things that happened to Marty, and I think that much of it had to do with he's an addict. I mean, that you have to look at it that way, that he just couldn't shake it. And to this day, that you hear, he still talks about him partying and how he has to, when he was doing shows and doing whatever, that what do I do the rest of the week? It's too bad that he really didn't have an awakening like Shawn did eventually. And so part of it is because he couldn't shake the demons. He couldn't shake those addictions and the lifestyle. And that's too bad, because he could have been absolutely one of the greats.
As I said before, when I'd watch Rockers matches, it wasn't Shawn Michaels who I was looking at. It was Marty Jannetty who I was looking at, because he had it all. And, we've talked about before. I've seen many interviews with you where you talk about wrestlers and what the road can do to you and what the road can take away from you. Do you feel like the road, Shawn Michaels, the only reason he got clean or got better is because he got hurt in 1998. He had to go home for like 4 years. And when that time he was married, he found Jesus, like he changed his outlook on life. Marty Jannetty, I don't want to kick a man down ever, but do you think the road just took too much away from Marty and he was never able to get it back? And in today's world, he's still suffering. Yeah.
And I don't think you can blame it on the road. I think that, it was just the circus he got to join that had everything he wanted. And loved. So, it is, you hear some of these guys, they talk about it. I can't imagine what would be enjoyable about that life in the small version of it that I lived. And, I didn't have to go to all those house shows. I didn't have to, get up in the morning and find a gym and work out and then be ready to go and perform again after the night before somebody took my head off and I can barely move my neck. But they miss it. They loved it. They, be apart from your family, whatever semblance of whatever that might exist. But there's some people that they love that. And especially if you have that type of personality and that addiction, it's the perfect scenario for that to continue. And you never want it to end. But it's really sad because it cost him everything. And there's others, the list is long of what, that did to people, just by not just only the physical toll, but they're not on this planet anymore, one after another. It's just, it's astounding, but they don't, I'm sure even to this day, I think Marty's even said, I wouldn't change anything. It was awesome. I just read that book on the British Bulldogs, and Tom Billington, his whole life was full of bad things that he was addicted to, between the steroids and all the drugs and the And even at the end, and I can't believe he lived to 60, but even the end of it, he said, I wouldn't change a day. I mean, imagine that, all of the price that he paid, and all the carnage left behind. But for him, the price was worth it, even ending up in a wheelchair.
Wow. Yeah, I guess fame and fortune and living out your dreams, sometimes sacrifices must be made. And Shawn Michaels ended up becoming world champion and running the PC, training today's world. Marty Jannetty's doing his thing, but all in all, the Rockers, to me, still one of the top 5, top 10 tag teams of all time. Doesn't matter what year, what generation. They've influenced the Hardy Boys, the Young Bucks, Motor City Machine Guns, everyone who's a high flyer, because honestly, without them, you'd think I got to be 300 pounds and I got to be big, I got to be giant. And Shawn Michaels was 6'1". So
they opened the door for a lot of these guys, these younger guys. I'm sure there's a long list that became very successful and modeled themselves after those two. And I know you said, you did an interview with Marty. I don't know how long ago it was. I saw him at a show a couple of years ago. I always liked Marty. I did. I mean, he was just, he was all the interactions that I ever had with him. He, was very funny. And he, even when I saw him then, it's sad for me to think about that, the way that road split for those two. And Shawn paid a big price along the way too. Thank God that he did find Christ, and that changed his life. And he's helping others, and he's passing it forward. But Marty could have been that same guy and had been just as successful, and that's the tragedy of it.
Yeah. I think what's great though about the Rockers too is if you don't know anything about like what happens backstage, if you just watch television, you have seen Rockers reunions in 2005 with Shawn and Marty. We have seen Marty return here and there, fighting Kurt Angle in an amazing match on SmackDown about 15 years ago. So if you're just watching television, the Rockers have done no wrong in the eyes of a fan. If you know the books, the story, the backstage, well, there's different layers to that. But anything else about the Rockers you want to share, Mooney?
No, I just to this day I think that they stand up really well when you talk about some of the top tag teams and what the impact that they had on professional wrestling, and both of those guys. If we look at them in the ring, two of the greatest ever.
Yes, agreed. Rockers, I will forever push out my blow up hair, and I will wear my tassels and my tight pants and super kick my wife and throw her through a glass window.
That. Don't do that. No, I don't want the spandex and I don't want to see that. You make sure you keep that to yourself, mister. Okay?
No, that's me and my wife on Saturday night, folks. I'll send you the pictures. Don't you worry. She's Marty. I'm Shawn. That's weird. All right. Have a great day. I'm Steve Paul. He's Shawn Mooney. Have a great day. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
It's the golden age